If you want to visit a national park, but you have little kids and you're not sure if it's a good idea and you're not sure where to go, I've got you, because I have been visiting the national parks with my young kids for a very long time. And today I want to share my 5 favorite national parks for little kids. My name is Ash. I'm a former park ranger and the founder of Dirtinmyshoes. I'm also the mom of 2 little boys, and we have been taking our little boys to the national parks basically since birth. You can't keep me away. I love the national parks. And so today I want to share some of my favorite things about visiting the national parks with little kids and some of the parks that are my favorite to take them to. Both of my boys are still in elementary school. We're just kind of coming out of that stage of taking little kids and toddlers to the national parks. It can be pretty daunting. I totally get it. But I do want to say that I think that you should start taking your kids to the national parks as early as possible. We have just seen such cool things come out of doing that with our own kids. We took our youngest to Glacier when he was about 3 months old, and we still had a fantastic time. The trip looks different for sure because you do need to go a little bit slower. You're accommodating nap times and snack times and, toddler tantrums, stuff like that. I get that. But get your kids to the national parks. You will not be sorry. You'll have to slow down. You'll have to pay attention to details, but you get to see the parks through their eyes. And as a parent, that is one of the most rewarding things that I have ever done. Couple disclaimers here before I share my 5 favorite parks for little kids is first, just because I don't mention a park here does not mean that you shouldn't take your kids there. We, again, have taken our kids all around the country to many, many national parks, even when they were really little. Sometimes I get questions like, oh, Ash, you didn't say that this park was good for toddlers. Should I still take my toddler here? And in most cases, it's an exuberant yes. Please still take them. Please still introduce them to the beauty of our national parks. Help them get out on the trail. Help them have these really cool experiences, especially while they're young. My second disclaimer, when people come to me and they're like, should we take our kids? We're not sure we want to. Maybe that doesn't sound very fun to you. I totally get it. But don't assume that your child can't do something. So a lot of times parents will come to me and be like, Ash, we just don't feel like we want to even take them because they probably, I don't think that they could even do a hiking trail or even, do this or do that or stay up with us or, have fun, whatever it is. And I will just say some of life's best lessons are learned on the hiking trail. There are so many good things that you can teach your kids by getting them outside, getting them on the trail, teaching them perseverance and hard work and endurance and, life's a journey. Enjoy the trail along the way, not the destination. I mean, there's just so many lessons you can teach your kids, especially from that young age. You get them out on the trail and you just see how far they will go. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with going slower. There's nothing wrong with turning around when everybody's done. You don't even have to make it to the end. That's fine. But what I will say is please don't stifle your children. Please don't tell them that they can't do something or not even attempt it because you think it might be too much. Obviously be safe. Don't choose a trail that is way far out there and not a good idea. But let your kids surprise you. My kids have just surprised me over and over and over again as we've taken them into the parks and hit the hiking trails and stuff like that. A lot of times they are so excited, they actually push me to go further. And they, discover things along the trail that I wouldn't have seen. And so it's just a really rewarding experience. So don't tell your kids they can't do things. Get them into the parks and see what they can do. Now, I mentioned making sure that you stay safe and choosing age-appropriate trails, and here at Dirtinmyshoes, I will help you with that. So you can choose a national park, you can get a trip itinerary if you want me to really pick those trails that we love doing with our kids that we know are good. I will, tell you, hey, if you have little kids on this trail, you might want to turn around at this point, start it and turn around here. Stuff like that you will find in my itineraries. All right, let's get to the good stuff. let's talk about my 5 favorite parks for little kids. Park number 1 is Arches National Park in Utah. This park is pretty much always my go-to answer. If you haven't been here with your young kids and toddlers, this park is perfect for that. A lot of things in Arches can be seen from the road, but you're not doing a ton of driving here. And I know that's a big deal when you've got little kids. The entire park road only takes about 45 minutes to drive from one end to the other. So when you do get out of your car, most trails are pretty short, like usually like a mile or less. And so that's really great when you have young kids. You can get out, stretch your legs, go see something really cool like double arch or the windows or landscape arch. You know, a lot of that doesn't take much hiking. You're not going too far from your car, but you're still having an amazing experience together as a family. A lot of parents love sand dune arch in Arches, and we will talk about how much kids love sand with my next park choice as well. But sand dune arch is a really popular one. It's a super short trail, and there's just like tons of sand underneath this arch that kids love to run in and play in and, you know, get all over themselves. So that's a really cool option. The nice thing about Arches, again, short drive time. There's not really big, like dangerous cliffs they can fall off or anything like that. And taking into account also like how much can we just kind of run around and climb? How much are we, you know, being limited by touching? I know kids love to touch and feel and stuff like that. Some parks, you know, you don't want to have them touching things like in the caves and stuff like that. But Arches is not like that at all. There are rocks to climb on. There's sand to play in, all the good stuff for your toddlers. All right, park number 2, Great Sand Dunes National Park in Colorado. Listen, Great Sand Dunes turns everybody into a kid. Can you be bad at sand sledding? Yes. I am not very good at sand sledding. For some reason, I just can't get my sleds to go very fast. But it is so much fun, and adults and kids alike can just have a blast at this park. It's just a bunch of sand dunes. So when you get there, you can just hike a little ways into the dunes, pick a spot. You can rent sand sleds for the day, and so you can just take time playing in the sand, sliding down the sand, doing all the fun things in the sand. Our kids love this park, but so do we. We have a really fun time sliding down the sand with them as well. This park is really small. It's only about 10 minutes of driving. There's only really one road that you go in on to get to the dunes, the campground. That's about it. There is more you can do in the backcountry, but as just a family coming for the first time, you're not doing a ton of driving. There's not big cliffs. You just go and you can play in the sand. If you go during the right time of year, Great Sand Dunes actually has a creek that comes down. All the snow runoff comes from the mountains down through the dunes. It's called Medano Creek, and typically this peaks around, May, a little bit into June, but usually about mid-May. For a couple of weeks, you'll have that water coming down, and it's like a giant beach day. You have the water to play in, you have the sand to play in. I should also mention this park really doesn't have very many trails, and there are no trails through the dunes. So especially for little kids, they, can't go off trail and cause erosion or anything like that. You don't have to be chiding them for that. You can just hang out and play in the sand. Other parks that have great sand dunes, White Sands has sand dunes so you can sled down, so that's a really fun one. Death Valley has some really good sand dunes. Our kids always look forward to that when we go to Death Valley. So there are a few parks that if you just want to get out and have a big play day, that's a really great option. Okay, park number 3 is a park that might surprise you, and a lot of people really don't even know about this park or what to do in this park or really even, get excited about this park, but we love it and it's fantastic for kids. So I am talking about Petrified Forest National Park in Arizona. This one actually isn't too far from the Grand Canyon, but it does get overlooked quite often. So we love this park because, first of all, it's not very big. It only takes about 45 minutes to drive from one side to the other. There are lots of fossils in this park. So if you've got kids that are excited about fossils, they even have like a paleontology lab that you can go to and look in on. So that's super cool. But I think what we love about it and why it's so great for little kids is because you're here to see the petrified trees, which are just spectacular. They're so beautiful. But these petrified trees are virtually indestructible. They are so hard on the hardness scale. I mean, the highest is like a 10 for diamonds. These petrified trees are like around 7 to 8 on that hardness scale. And so you can touch them, you can walk on them, you can, knock on them, whatever you want to do. You can have little kids get really up close, taking a close look. They can touch it. They can, we have, sometimes our kids like to stand on the stumps or walk on the stumps, and they can do that because there's really no harm that can be done to these petrified trees. The other cool thing about Petrified Forest is that they do have areas of the park where you can go off trail. And so that's really fun. Again, to be able to take your kids and to let them just kind of explore around and see what cool colors they can find in the petrified trees and see what they can discover. We really like the Jasper Forest for this. It's super cool. And my kids just love picking up the pieces and looking at the colors. You just have to remind them that they can't take any of it out of the park. You buy, petrified tree souvenir when you get outside of the park. But while you're in the park, you're just discovering and trying to see what you can find. I feel like I keep adding more, but there's one last really cool thing about Petrified Forest National Park, which is that it is right along historic Route 66. And so if you go to its gateway town of Holbrook, you can actually get like some really cool Route 66 vibes, but especially for young kids. I know my kids were so excited about this because there was a period of time where my son watched the movie Cars every single day. That was his choice. He was probably about 3, and that's the only movie he ever wanted to watch. And Holbrook it's called the Wigwam Hotel, and it was actually the inspiration for the Cozy Cone in Cars. So that's really cool, and they have some fun Cars characters out by the cozy cones, the wigwams that you can stay in. So stuff like that is just right outside of Petrified Forest, and you can do both while you're in the area. It doesn't take very long, and it's a great place to go with young kids. Okay, park number 4 is Olympic National Park in Washington. And this national park is so diverse. You have the mountains, you have the beaches, you have the rainforests. Like, there's so much to do in this park. And you only have to drive a short distance to get to something completely different than what you just saw. So it's really cool for that. The reason that I love it for young kids is specifically the beaches. The beaches have a lot of tide pooling, and it's really fun to go to these tide pools with your young kids and to just spend a few hours letting them discover the creatures that are in the tide pools. Our kids love this. And so Olympic just has a lot of really fun stuff like that to do. You can go tide pooling. There's some shorter trails that go through the whole rainforest that are really nice if they want to see like the big, huge moss-draped trees. That's super cool. There's a jumping dock off Lake Crescent that our kids really love. Not so much when they were little. The water's really cold, but now they love it. And so it's just really cool that like day by day you can do something completely different. But those tide pools, they steal the show. Our kids love the tide pools at Olympic National Park. They are so good, and you will see so many creatures in them, and it's something they won't forget. All right, and park number 5 is Grand Teton National Park. If you've been following me very long, you know that I am obsessed with Grand Teton. It is my favorite national park. I love this park, and a big reason for that is because I have grown up visiting this park since I was a baby. My parents took me here. They weren't big on hiking. Like, we didn't do a whole lot of like the traditional stuff that you think to do in a national park. But I have pictures and memories, almost 40 years worth of visiting this national park. So I love Grand Teton. You can see lots of wildlife. There's some good shorter trails. There are beautiful lakes you can swim in. You just get the views from everywhere, so you don't even have to hike to get those beautiful mountain views. There are so many fun activities that you can do in Jackson, which is the gateway town to this park. So lots going on in this area and things for people of all ages. Maybe you live close to a national park that you can take your kids to over and over and over again. And to me, that's what makes a great national park for young kids. You can start them early. You can get them excited about being in these beautiful places. You can teach them stewardship. You can teach them leave no trace. You can teach them perseverance and endurance, as I mentioned at the beginning. So that really, for me, is the true mark of a great national park for young kids and toddlers, a place that they will remember when they are our age and they still have all those fond memories of being in that park with their favorite people. So get out on the trail, get out in the parks, take those toddlers, take those young kids, help them to just really love being in the national parks, even from the very get-go. And I will see you out on the trail with my own kids in the national parks.